Okay, hi everyone. We're going to be starting in 1 second. Okay. So, hey everyone, welcome to our Community of Seven microlearning. I'm Lan Fan, founder and CEO of Community of Seven. If you're joining live in the Zoom audience or watching this via live stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, Meta, or Instagram, please introduce yourselves in the comment or the chat. Let us know what city you're dialing in from. And quick reminder, this is not a one-way conversation. Your voice matters also. So if something resonates, drop it in the chat. If you have a takeaway, if you have a book recommendation, advice to share, a favorite quote, just let us know in the chat or comment wherever you're dialing in from. So for those who are new to Community of Seven, we have one simple mission. It's to bring together authors, coaches, executives, founders, and subject matter experts to help you elevate both your mindset and your skill set. Today is part of our micro learning series where we focus on one powerful topic and we go deep in a short amount of time. Today's conversation is on how to influence anyone while growing your career and brand. And we have the amazing Howie Chan. I'm excited to introduce him, but before we do, a quick check-in and exercise. For those who are in the live Zoom audience, if there's a yes, you can put both hands like this. If it's no, just put your hands down. And if you can, turn on your videos as well, because I know as a speaker, and I know I can speak for Howie too, we love seeing your beautiful faces. If you're watching this via live stream, just type in yes or no to the next questions that I have. First question, have you ever avoided making an ask because you didn't want to sound salesy or pushy? Right? Have you ever watched a less qualified person get ahead because they communicated their values more clearly? Do you believe your career would move faster if you may if more decision makers truly understood your impact? Have you ever left a meeting thinking they just didn't get it and I didn't explain it well? Last question, what would you like a simple framework to earn buy-in that still feels authentic to your personality? And what's great is at the end of this, Howie's actually going to probably send you a link to his newsletter, and you will have that simple framework. So today's conversation is on how to influence anyone and how to grow your career and brand. It's such an important topic, and it's something that we don't necessarily think of when we are advancing in our career, right? We're so kind of focused on what are the skill sets that I need to learn that we don't think about the powers of influencing. So let's start with a truth that we don't often talk about. If you want to change your life or your career, at some point, you're going to need to move another human being from point A to point B. You need to move them into action. In one of the things I used to always say to my teams was, in a lot of ways, we have to get people to do things that we want, right? That they don't necessarily want to do. That, ladies and gentlemen, is influence. Not manipulation, not being salesy, not being the loudest in the room. Influence is simply helping people say yes to the right things. And it could be an idea, a decision, a next step, maybe a better habit. And the reason why today's talk matters is that many of us in this room right now, many of this watching online, we do amazing work, but we're not getting the traction or we're not getting the acknowledgement. And there lies the issue. Not because we're not capable, not because we're not good at what we do. It's because we haven't articulated or created the buy-in in a way that feels like us or gets people to recognize the good work that we do. And this is why I think this topic is so important. And this is why we've brought the best of the best today to talk about it. Howie is an old friend. You guys have probably seen him online, But let's introduce him right now. Howie is the founder and chief strategist of the Behavioring Company, where he applies brand and influence psychology to change human behavior for good. I like that he stresses the good at the end because there's some that do the opposite. He was named the top LinkedIn creator in branding and positioning by Favicon in 2024. He's also the host of the Influence Anyone podcast. And outside from him being an amazing speaker, trainer, leader, consultant, he trains 100-mile bike rides and keeps an unreasonable number of spicing condiments in his cabinets. Howie, round of applause. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Now I'm going to give you the spotlight and you can take the stage because I think you have an amazing kind of presentation for us. So let me get out of the way and give you the mic.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I'm known for my obsession in spicy condiments. Even Santa Claus brings me spicy condiments every year. My children are excited to always see the stack of spicy condiments every year. I want to start with the story. It's a story about Ignaz Semmelweis. So Ignaz Semmelweis was a doctor in Austria, in Vienna, and in the 1830s, he started work at the Vienna General Hospital. And when he was there, I mean, he was sort of freshly graduated, a doctor doing rounds, and he noticed that in the hospital there were two wards that he was assigned to, and they were both in the gynecology obstetrics ward delivering babies. But in one of the wards, the first ward, the the mortality rate in that first ward was about 18%. So crazy high. Think about it. Almost one in five women who gave birth died from giving birth. Whereas in the second ward, it was only about 1%. So he was very curious about what was going on with the wards. Like, why is it that there's such a high mortality rate in one and low in the other? So in one of the times where he was having lunch with some of the folks from the first ward, they were talking about doing cadaver studies. So this is like taking in a dead person, doing studies on that and pathology. And he said, "Huh, maybe is that the case?" And so he followed them and sort of tried to understand what was going on. And he immediately understood that perhaps some particles from the cadavers were being transferred to the women as they were helping them give birth. So he then started this idea where perhaps if they washed their hands in some sort of a liquid, a liquid to get rid of those particles, it could help. He performed experiments, and lo and behold, he was able to reduce mortality rate by about 10 times, right? So from 18% down to 1%. So the second ward were physicians or nurses that did not touch cadavers. It was an amazing discovery. And he was very excited. He had conviction to make sure that the physicians go wash your hands, do the thing, right? And we all know today it's germs, but back in the day there was no germ theory. People didn't know what it was. He failed miserably. So even with the data in hand, with all the things that he did, the proof, the research, physicians did not change their routines. And the tragedy was after years of trying to do this to persuade folks to change, he could not. And the fact that he saw needlessly women dying put him in a very terrible state. He ended up in a psychology ward and he actually died in 1865, so about 25 years later, from an infection himself. I mean, how ironic, but what a tragedy. So this is called the Semmelweis effect. It's actually a thing where when you think about this, when you're trying to influence people, people usually typically think as long as I have the data, as long as I have logic, I'm able to get someone to do something. But that's not true. The problem is humans, all of us, we behave not based on fact, not based on logic. We behave most of all based on irrational reasons. And this is, well documented. If you guys have read Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, he talks about this as system one and system two thinking, where system one is fast, sort of subconscious, and we exist in that state most of the time. And then system two is actually logical, laborious, we're focused, we're doing the research, and that is a minimal part of the time because our brain intrinsically needs to conserve energy. And what it does is it makes a lot of these decisions without us even knowing. And that's why it's so important. And that's why we fail most of the time. So I want to help you guys understand this further. Again, if there are any questions, please speak up. One of the things that we can do to think about this is actually based on a three-layer brain model. So from a neuroscience perspective, if you think about this, the oldest part of our brain is what you call the brain stem, right? So that's like the oldest part. People call this the reptilian brain. It's responsible for survival. All these involuntary controls are from the brain stem, right? The breathing and all the things that our body does to keep us safe and alive. And then the next layer is what people typically call the mammalian brain. So that's the cerebrum, cerebellum, sorry. So that part is responsible for emotions, sort of subconscious thinking, connections. And then the latest part that our brain was developed is actually the neocortex, and that's responsible for planning, for very rational decisions, goal setting. And so when we think about that, always think in terms of the person that you're trying to influence. They're making decisions primarily based on A, B, and C. So, first of all, to keep themselves alive and safe. Then is emotion. Then lastly is logic and planning. So whenever you're trying to influence someone, always think about those things. So I call this, there's a framework you can use. This is like, it's a triangle. So on one side, you have the person that you're trying to influence or change. That's the audience. On the other side is you, the messenger. And then connecting those two, the bottom part of the triangle is context. So let me give you some examples of what this means. So if you were, let's say, a leader and you're trying to convince your team to do something, and you're trying to convince them to do something very different, you're sort of breaking the rules and trying to do something very different. The first thing you need to understand is the audience, so your team. So how are they feeling? What's the emotional elephant in the room, if there's any? Um, you and what are their goals, right? So the more you can understand what your audience is going through, what do they desire, what are the problems, what's urgent, the better you can then frame up the things that you're saying, the frame up the ideas that you're bringing to the table. So let's say the team missed the last quarter of goals, and they're very anxious and they're very feel like that's a real issue. So instead of you starting with, "Hey guys, this is a new thing we're gonna do," you have to address that because that's what they're all thinking about. So never leave that to the end. Address whatever it is that's top of mind right away, and you start from there, and you sort of understand them. And you understand what's in the way. From a context perspective, so the bottom of the triangle, context. If it's something that is so different that you want them to do, you got to remember that we make our decisions a lot of times based on context. What do I mean by this? From a very young age, we are taught to do certain things in certain places and not to do certain things in other places. So, I have kids 10 and 5. Whenever we're in a nice, fine dining restaurant, I'll tell them, you don't run around, you stay put, you sit in your seat, butts in seat, you keep quiet, right? Don't disturb other people. From the moment we were very young to adults, we know what to behave where. And that's a very strong thing that we have been accustomed to. So if you are trying to get your team to do something totally different, but the environment in which you're communicating is in the same environment. Let's say it's in the office, it's on the manufacturing line, it's in a place where they feel like structure is is there guiding them. It will be very hard for them to adopt something totally new. So what do you want to do? You probably want to take them someplace else. You probably want to take them to some other place to deliver that, to workshop it, right? So bring them to a place that they have not been before as a team. Context is so important. And then lastly, on the other end of the triangle is the messenger, which is you. It is never a bad thing to look at if the messenger is the right person to deliver that message, right? So I think a lot of leaders feel like they have to be the one delivering, but sometimes maybe you're not the one that should be the one delivering the message for them to change their minds. So there might be other people that are more influential. You know, you might want to bring in a facilitator that can deliver the message that the team can sort of corral around. But the other thing to think about too is as the messenger that's delivering any kind of message, you need to be aware of how you typically do that. So I had a very interesting discussion and very interesting observation. I had a client. So he is a salesperson. So he's a director of sales. And one of the very interesting discussions I had with him as I talked to him about understanding the customer and understanding the psychology of the customer, he turned to me and said, Howie, I don't think we should do that. Let's leave the psychology to psychologists. I don't want to be putting my customers on the couch to understand what's going on. Let's just give them the facts. Let's just give them the scientific proof, which totally caught me off guard because in my mind, a salesperson, like, isn't that most of what you do is to understand the needs and the psychology of who you're trying to serve and then try and tell a story and help them sort of see themselves in this new thing. So I started to do more research on this, guys, and over the past few years, working with leaders, looking at research on how we behave, sort of behavioral psychology. I've sort of put together a framework and five sort of styles of influence that we sort of go to. So the five styles, again, this is not a label and it can change over time. It's just something that we naturally move towards and it's a profile, right? So it doesn't mean that you are when you do the assessment, you will find that one of the styles, you know, you always have one style that is better than or more natural than all the rest. It's a profile. So the five that I found are what I call the sage. The sage is one. The sage is a person that influences through wisdom and through reflection. Okay. The next is the commander. A, a commander style is someone that is typically giving you specific directions. That's typically very straightforward. That typically can see a needle in the haystack and find a problem right away. Then there is what I call the storyteller. So storytellers typically relate an incident, maybe tell a story about this other team that has been doing it this way and it worked for them. And then there is the connector. The connector is someone who cares a lot about other people. They care about how they have a relationship with others, and they always start with sort of empathy and trying to be very empathetic and make sure that that connection is always in place. The last one is the scientist, and this is like that salesperson, which is very odd. Like he has this sort of scientist forward style, which is really based on data and proof. You know, you're reaching for that all the time to try and convince somebody. So what I did was when I had this assessment, it's 16 questions, and I'll share that with you guys very quickly. You got to get your profile. What I've seen from all the responses are two really interesting things. The first one is um, everybody has sort of a style and a profile, and when stress, when the environment is uncertain, when we're forced to kind of do something very quickly, basically high stress environments, we reach for that same style. We double down on that style to influence, to get people to do something. And then the other thing that I found through the responses and the research is that their own sort of natural styles that come up for them are the ones that they think works the best. So back to that sales director that I talked about, right? So his natural style was that, all right, I'm all about the science and the data and the proof, and then he reaches for that for himself as he tries to influence others, but also when he tries to enact some of these strategies for his company, he makes that as the primary. So it's very interesting. So I would encourage you guys to go do that. And again, this is not a label. It's not something you're stuck at. It's a way to understand what you naturally do. And then, of course, when you think about this, if you are talking or trying to persuade, let's say, a person who is more of a commander type of style, where that person reaches for that, and you are more of a storyteller, think about how hard is it for you to influence that person, because you start to tell, oh, when I work with this company, I did this and this and this. And then all the other person wanted was you to give a direction, and he or she will be frustrated and be like, "All right, dude, I stop. What do you want me to do? What is the right thing to do?" So as you can understand how people want to be persuaded, you can better persuade them. So all right, I'm gonna pause here. I spoke a lot. Are there questions, comments? Lan, do you have questions for me?
Let me unmute myself.
Yeah,
I think what I kind of find fascinating, so I'm looking at the chat and we got a few sages, we have a few commanders, scientists, and then we have TR who's like a little bit of everything. So the question is, can you be, because for me, I'm a connector in some situations,
yeah,
maybe a sage in other situations, and I kind of toggle between some of these based on where I'm at. Who I
absolutely,
am in a corporate setting is much different than who I am at home or at work.
absolutely.
So, like, I guess you have a dominant one, but can you be kind of, toggle between the multiple ones, and how do you kind of apply to that? Then once you ask, I think Anil has a question, and I'll unmute him and get him
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. Absolutely. And it's evolving, right? As I get responses. I also have extended sort of questionnaire because I'm doing research on this. So if you guys can help, that'll be really awesome. Um, but yeah, I feel like when I look at the data, um, about half of the folks have a very dominant. I mean, this is like they reach for that style very instinctively. There are also folks that have sort of a spread, but there are also ones where I think most of the folks have one or two of the styles where it's like zero. They don't reach for it at all. It's just an understanding of what we do naturally. And once you understand that, then you can be like, all right, let's make sure that if I don't have a propensity to tell any stories, let's make sure that when I am in a position where I need to be telling stories, that I do that, because our instinct is to not do that, right? So you start to understand the blind spots for yourself. So absolutely, there's no right or wrong. It's just a reflection of what you reach for.
I love that. Okay, so Anil, you have a question. Do you want to turn on your video, or do you want to just kind of ask
Yeah.
using your voice?
Yeah. So, Len, thanks. I think you actually took over the question that I had. I was also of the same opinion that it might not be one among the five.
Yeah.
It
Which one are
changes
you,
from
Anil?
time. I'm actually, that's where I say that it depends from time to time and also from situation to situation. So
Hmm.
somewhere you need to be a commander, and sometime you need to be sage, and sometime you need to connect in sales, right, as a connector.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
need to play different roles at different point of times, and also combination of few of them to make it successful. So you
Perfect.
never, from person to person, something works on a certain person, and sometime it might backfire on a certain person, right? For example, in a financial field, a storyteller, probably I don't have a time to listen to stories, right? I just want, I used to send balance sheet in 160 characters on a mobile
Oh,
phone.
wait, can I push back on that, Anil? Because I
Yeah,
think some of the most talented CFOs I've met, have been the ones that have been able to tell a story. It's not just about reading the balance book. It's about like getting like because let's be honest, numbers can be boring. But if you can add storytelling to, like a financial report and have people understand why their actions make a difference or how their hard work or their sales improve because of XYZ, you're going to be able to, um, be more effective at your role.
sure, Lan, I hear that. But from my experience, if you want the attention of a finance guy, I think the first thing that gets attention is that if you say that I can increase your revenue by 50% or
Okay,
100%.
that's true. That's true. Um, so, how
So
do you have
that's where the
a?
storytelling would come into play, where he would give you the time to understand how you can do that.
Okay, good point. Howie, you have anything to say to him? And then if not, I will go to Russell's question.
Yeah, well, I think quickly, I would recommend you guys to go take the assessment. It's 16 questions,
Can you, oh, that link,
yeah, I
influence.
put it in the I put it
Okay,
yeah,
super. For
influence
those who are
anyone,
watching this via live stream, it's
influence style
influence
quiz.
style quiz. Influence
Yeah.
style
It's very
quiz.com.
quick, very quick. Somebody even took it in 2 minutes. But the idea is that you go through it actually quickly. Whatever comes to mind immediately, you sort of reach for. And I will always tell folks, like don't communicate based on labels, right? Because everybody is different. So the more you can understand the person that you're trying to influence, the better, right? Based off of interactions, questions, and so on. Yes, Russell.
Yes. Oh wait, where are you? Let me spotlight you. Awesome. Hi, Russell. Oh, unmute yourself. Yes.
Oh, hello. First of all, thank you for putting this on and thank you for the invite. It's been very exciting so far. I just wanted to ask, when you were coming up with these five influence styles, a lot of things have been discussed and even shared in the chat. It reminds me of leadership styles, something that I've studied
Mm,
for a number of years.
yeah.
And that, those who are the stronger leaders are those who not only know which styles to use when, but can actually switch more fluidly from one to the other, depending on the situation or the audience. Did that have any influence at all? Influence. on
Absolutely, absolutely, Russell. That's a fantastic point. Yeah. So when I developed them, it's pulling from some of the leadership styles that folks have already used. Again, my lens is about how do you get someone to do something, right? How do you influence in that bucket? And for me, again, one of the bad things about this stuff is the labeling of people, which that's why I always say, dude, it is not a label. It doesn't fix you to a thing. It's a snapshot of who you are and what you reach for today. Right. So the idea is to understand that. And then, all right, if I'm so focused on this, so for like my style, one of my when I took this on for myself, Commander was so strong for me that I have to, when I am in situations, I have to think about, all right, don't just reach for that because I'm so natural at reaching for that. Reach for something else when it calls for something else. So totally on point, Russell.
I love that. Thank you. Anyone else have a question? Okay, awesome. So do you want to move forward or do you want to kind of open it up
Yeah.
to just
Yeah,
questions?
let me address something. So one of the things, Lan, you asked some really good questions before I started. This idea of, do we ever feel um greasy? Do we ever feel salesy when we're trying to promote what we do and all that? So I think I've two things I want to leave with you guys. Um One is when you are an expert, when you're an expert, you tend to diminish what you know. Okay, it's an effect that's very commonly known. The more you know something, the less you feel like it's a big deal because we exercise that expertise very easily. So when we do that, we feel like, oh, other people should be able to do that as well. But we forget that if we were to place ourselves into the shoes of a beginner in whatever expertise we have, it's so hard. I mean, just think about driving, right? When you drive now, I mean, everything comes easy. But when you try to explain to your kid how to drive and they have no clue how to drive, it's almost like, oh my God, there's all these things that you have learned to be an expert at that over the years. So what I'm trying to say is your expertise is valuable. Your expertise is valuable. So always know that you can help someone with your expertise. So promoting yourself, helping someone else, letting people know that you can help is super important because they need your help. So I'll leave you with that first idea. The second idea is that you are actually selfish to not promote yourself. Let me say that again. This is tough love, okay? Coming from me. It's actually a very selfish act if you do not promote yourself. Because what this means is that you are not even willing to tell people about the good things that you can do for them. And so they don't get to have your help. They don't get to have your help when you don't let them know about you. So I would say get over yourself, talk about what you know, and help the people that you can. Serve the folks that you can serve with your expertise.
I love that. I think Nikhil has a comment or question. Is it okay if we bring him on?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Nikhil, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes. Hey, how are you, Lan?
Good seeing you. And for those that don't, Nikhil, he is an amazing laughter coach.
Nice.
I did a training for this agency, and he was like, I guess my opening act, right? And he got the whole room laughing. It was amazing. So
I
yes.
love it.
Yeah.
Humor is a great way to disarm
Yes.
and introduce new ideas. So
No,
absolutely.
it is. Yeah, no, good seeing you again, man.
Mhm.
How are you? Question, I don't know if I heard you correctly. So you said if you can understand how someone is influenced, you can adapt yourself
Mhm.
to their style.
Mhm.
So could you expand on that just a little bit, please?
Yeah. So for example, let me go back to my story, right? So I was working with that sales director, and in my mind, sales folks, they want to hear about stories, they want to hear about how you can use emotions. But for him, his main dominant style of influence is a scientist. So for me to influence him, I basically had to go down. All right, let me bring you some studies that show this works. Let me bring you some studies and research about how you can use this technique and this idea to help this customer be more comfortable, to help this customer say yes, to help this customer try something new. So I had to adapt what I give him based on how he naturally influence people. So that's a very specific, example.
No, I got it now. No, thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we have another question from Rajat. Do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much, Lan. Thank you very much, Howie. This has been a great session. I have two quick comments. One is a question, one is a comment. So I'll start with the comment first. The triangle that you referred to earlier in the discussion, I think it'd be tremendously helpful to have a visual representation of that. And, so people can react more granularly versus listening to it. That's just a thought for you to consider.
Sure. Yeah.
The second one is the terminologies that we just went through with influencers, and I'm not going to go through the entire list, but in your opinion or in your mind, does it fit or does it even belong in, for example, a Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Can we ladder it some way, or do things overlap in such a way that you need to reach a sweet center in terms of a circular notion that captures each of the verbiage that you used? So that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, the hierarchy of needs is an interesting one. I think as I was talking about um the reptilian brain, right? The mammalian brain and the neocortex, sort of the human brain. I think the layers of our brains as it developed over time is a reflection of the hierarchy, right? Because in the end, like, again, what is the basal need that we all have? It's safety. It's how our brain was developed, safety and survival to start, right? And then gradually to emotions, and then gradually to things that are more sort of planning and focus. Maslow's needs hierarchy kind of represent that. But I think how we can take away from that is we often default to using speech and default to using words as a way to persuade, where oftentimes it is not that persuades. So think about any kind of scenario. If we were in danger, that will be the number one thing we address. It wouldn't be anything else, right? If we were in danger, that will be the first thing. So if let's say, if let's say an emergency hit a town, some sort of big, tornado or whatever would destroy a town. At that point in time, it doesn't really matter what your beliefs are, and what your emotions are. You're going to help each other survive, because that's the number one thing that we're all geared towards. I don't care if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're whatever. We're all going to act to survive because that's what you needed to do. So that's like the base level. So then once we get past that, would be the emotion, will be the emotion. So this is not even language, right? This is emotion. This is nonverbal communication. I mean, you all know this. You've all seen this. Um, if there's some kind of greasy salesman and what they're saying doesn't match their body language or their behavior in any way, you'll be able to sniff it out in a heartbeat, because we've been trained to do that ever since we're born, right? Babies can feel what you say without even understanding what you say. So that is super important. The emotions, the body language, right? The contact with the eyes, the movements of the face. And that's why the more genuine and authentic you are, the more you're able to persuade, because it doesn't lie. Like, you can't, these facial features that you have, the things that you do in your emotion, it doesn't lie. So you can obviously sort of know that. And then the last step is obviously the neocortex, which is, the words, the language, the planning, the goals. And that's why, if you start to look at any interviews today, any interviews, you are probably you probably can tell if the person that's being interviewed is lying, is hesitant to say something, or if there's just something wrong about what the person is saying, because of, we've all done this for our whole lives. So for us, it's really a matter of aligning our intentions to our words, to everything about us. And that's why authenticity wins, because people can smell bullshit from a mile away.
Thanks
So
very much, Harry.
thank you for that great question. So I have a question for you, Howie.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of the folks who are watching this are leaders within their organization, or maybe they're founders, but some are individual contributors. It's different to influence when you have a title, but what if you are just starting your career and you're an individual contributor? How do you influence without power?
Yeah, that's a great one. So a lot of influence is about trust building, right? So influence is about trust building. So the title maybe opens a door for you, but then everything downstream from that is up to you. So if you don't have the title, it's about, again, if you think about that triangle, who are you trying to influence, right? Who's the audience here? So if you're an individual contributor, let's say, you want to influence other maybe technical people, you need to think about their state. Where are they? How can you be seen more with those folks, right? What can you be more top of mind for those folks? And then when you think about the next thing to do with them, it would be, what is something that you can stand for, that you can say, a provocative statement, an interesting idea for them to remember you by, right? What can you do in front of those people that they will remember you by? Okay. And then the next thing you want to do is trust building. So trust building a lot of times is about that they know that you care for them, that you are that you show up when you say you do. So you're reliable, you're competent, right? Those are typically the three big things that you do to help people sort of trust you. And then once they trust you, what is it that you want them to do with you? Right? If it's selling something, is buying something from you. If it's you giving a talk, you want them to attend it. Right? Any kind of sale is basically a transaction of values. Yeah, the value that they're transacting you with. And then the last is how can you get them to refer you so that more people can see you. So it's a cycle. So this is a cycle that you can use to kind of have a continual sort of influence loop. I'm gonna say it again. See you, remember you, trust you, buy you, refer you. It's a loop of influence that you can use with anybody, but you have to start with who. Who are you trying to influence? And when you go through that loop, it sort of grows.
Can you repeat that again? Because I think it's really important.
Yeah. So there's see you.
Mm-hmm.
First one is see you. Second is remember you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if people see you but they don't remember you, then you might as well not exist, right?
I think that's me.
If people remember you, you want them to trust you. You want them to
you.
trust you, right? So you got to show up. You got to show up when you say you do. You got to say what you say you do.
Yeah.
You got to be competent. You got to be reliable. And then once they trust you, you need to get them to buy you. This is where you transact, right? Like value for value. You're giving me time. I'm giving you resources or information, right?
Yeah.
Or you're giving me money. I'm helping you solve a problem. You need to get them deeper to be closer to you. And then lastly, it's refer you. And refer you is so important because it's sort of the last line. Referring you means the people that you're trying to influence are actually risking their social reputation by referring you. It's kind of like, if I'm to refer somebody to a hot sauce, like, dude, it better be some really freaking good hot sauce because I'm putting my reputation on the line to refer that hot sauce brand, right? So refer you is the last one, but obviously, what's super important about this loop is that if they refer you, that means more people will see you.
Yeah.
So if you think about that in your organization, is there this loop? Who can help?
That's a really powerful visual.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
I call, this is my influence flywheel system. I actually gave a live talk last week. I might give another one. And if I do, I'll let you guys know. You guys can come and we can talk about that. So,
Awesome.
so it's a flywheel where the more you do, the more it compounds.
Yeah.
And you build a system that's 24/7, right? So it should work when you're not even there.
I love that. Jason, I know you had a question, but you put your hand down. Do you still have a question?
I just wanted to add one quick thing, and thank you for calling on me, Lan. Howie, great to see you again. Thanks so much. I love what you were just saying there because the consistency is what matters with our relationship building. I use an equation that's similar to what you were saying. I say that the math equation is like plus trust equals respect. And that likability, human-wise, it happens quickly. We make that choice, yes or no. That trust piece, it all depends on the traumas we've survived in life, right? And that can hurt trust or help trust. I've found that vulnerability always helps endear that trust to build more quickly. But from the place of respect, you have the opportunity to go anywhere you want in 360 degrees. So I just love what you're sharing here with the influence. My other question is for those of us who are interested in remaining in touch, I respect your LinkedIn profile. You have a lot of followers, probably keep a very certain circle. Is email better for us to be more intentional with you? How do you, for this, audience that Lan has brought in for us, how can we do that to build that trustful relationship with you if there's ways in which we can partner together?
Oh, absolutely. Email me. I'm there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm there. So, it's me. So definitely, I mean, whatever is easier.
Howie has an amazing newsletter that you definitely should sign up for as well. And you could also go to howiechan.com, Jason. But yeah, and he has
Howie, your email address is what?
It's Howie at Howie Chen. Yeah. Howie at HowieChan.com. Yeah.
And I'll look at the website. Thank you, Lan. Thank you, Howie. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, I love what you said there. I think a lot of times when we are in difficult situations, I've been on the agency side, like helping clients for a long time. The number one problem typically is trust. Like you see the symptoms, right? Which is like, oh, you guys suck, or like you guys are terrible at delivery, and then clients are angry or whatever. A lot of times it's because they don't trust you. And the number one thing to help somebody start on the path of trust with you is to give them something very specific and deliver on it. That's the thing that you can control 100%. So, for example, if someone's mad at you or whatever, you can say, all right, tomorrow I'm going to send you this thing at 3 p.m. I'm going to send you this thing at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And then immediately tomorrow, you send them the thing at 3 p.m. And then in that email, whatever it is, you say, all right, now that you have this, I'm going to follow up with you and ask you 3 questions, on Friday by 1. And you do that. So
Yeah.
that is something you can control 100% to get someone on the path of trust with you. Because a lot of other things you can't really control. Like they can feel how they feel, they can emote how they emote. But that's the number one thing you can start with that's totally in your control.
Awesome. Anil, I think you have another question. Got a lot of questions for Howie.
Yeah.
I love it.
The session is so nice that I think trying to clarify some of those doubts that you have while addressing your clients. So somewhere I feel guilty, right? We put a lot of effort in building the trust. And then when I sell the product to my client, I feel that the client would assume that all along he was building the trust to sell his product. So somewhere you feel guilty that the client might think that all the hard work was just to sell his product rather than build the trust. So
That's
I'm
great.
not sure whether how that is seen from the other side, but I feel guilty myself.
That's great. I think there's always you can avoid the disconnection by being very transparent in what you're
Mhm.
doing. So if you are very transparent in terms of, hey, I'm Anil, this is what I do, this is what I help people solve. These are the solutions, these are the problems, and you're very transparent and very clear about that.
Mhm.
And you're talking to someone that might need that solution. And so even in the initial stages, you can say, hey, my name is Anil. This is what I do. I help clients do this and this and this. Let me help you too. What can I do? And then you sort of move with them through the cycle so that there's no sudden like, hello, by the way, I'm selling you a secondhand car. Like that's not going to help you because again, trust is built on expectations and the fulfillment of expectations. But you have to let people know that this is what you do. And
Mhm.
this is what I help people do. So then it's never a surprise. And you can always have this simple thing where it's like, is it okay? Ask them, is it okay if I share with you an offer that I put together that help, people like you get past it? And they can say no,
Mhm.
which is totally okay. But you ask, and they can say, "Oh yeah, please," and then you can share with it. So I think that simple question can just help alleviate all of these things. Because I think from a person that sells things, you need to understand that not everybody needs your things, and that's all right.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs your shit. They can get it from anywhere else. It's fine. So as long as we have a very clear understanding of that bigger frame of mind,
Yeah.
then it's okay. Then you won't feel odd, you won't feel weird. You'll be like, best of luck to you. Go do your thing. You don't need me. Great, fantastic.
Yeah. Can I
Thank you.
add
Thank
something
you.
to that too, just with Anil's question? I think some of it is cultural too. Like or maybe you have an immigrant background, like where like my parents taught me you're never
Mm,
supposed to ask or ask for favors. And in some ways we have to rewire our brain
Mhm.
because the success metrics that our parents had is much different than the tools we need to succeed in either corporate America or starting our own business in a lot of ways. And so one of the things to retrain my brain was I always had, whenever I feel guilty about asking or closing the sale, is that I just have to always, if you don't ask, the answer is no. And it's a Nora
Mhm.
Roberts. She's a romance writer, funny enough. But she has this one brilliant line. If you don't ask, the answer is no. The answer is always no. And it's this one thing is if you don't, it's that proactive asking. We think we're taught in our culture to work hard, put our head down, and you'll be rewarded. And obviously, in corporate America or even in sales, that is
True.
not the case. You have to ask, you have to close the sale, right? So a lot of it is reprogramming how we think because we've been raised uh, to not ask or to diminish ourselves. And that's the reason why I love bringing people like Howie in, is that a lot of the people that should be leaders aren't necessarily leaders. A lot of the folks who are like, in power tend to be narcissistic, tend to have no problems closing the sale or asking. They're the takers of the world. And so for me, my goal has always been to empower the givers of the world, right? The people who don't have a voice. And because, in a lot of our cultures, sales is taught to be something that's kind of bad, right? And obviously, Howie's like one of the most genuine, great person, and he identifies. He's like, I sell, but he's still authentically himself, which I think is powerful, right? So
It's not an either or,
yeah,
100%. Is not an either or. We have been taught that it's either or. It's either you're an obnoxious, successful person or you're a kind, not successful
exactly.
person. No, this is not mutually exclusive. I think, for us,
Take,
like
take
it's
the
about,
ickiness out of it, right?
yeah, exactly. Like bring your real self into helping
Mm.
people. That's why the frame of mind about help. Serve people. Be
Yeah.
there to serve folks, right? And that's okay. And people say, no, that's totally fine, but ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nikhil has a,
Thank
oh,
you. Thank you, Len.
no worries. Nikhil has a question too, if you want to
Yeah. Actually,
hold on, let me add a
just a
spotlight.
follow up, to the discussion that was just going on. See, what about, like, for example, there's a mechanic who is close to me, and I saw somewhere on it, maybe on his Facebook page, he gives a certain amount of money for every car repair to clean the Hudson River, to an organization that
Mm.
cleans the Hudson. Or you go to a doctor, and it's like every year he goes and runs an eye camp in Africa. So you can be a nice person, still make the sale, but use that, like as a way of, so
Yeah.
you're not too, like, like Anil was saying, you're not like, okay, hey, this guy just wants to make the sale. You have that.
Yeah, like Tom's the company.
Yeah, 100%. You can absolutely do that, right? And part of that is understanding the values that you have and how does it matter to your business? 100%. Again, I think if you act according to who you are, your values, your positive intent to serve people, and go by that, everything should fall in place. Then literally you need to promote yourself because if not, they're not going to be able to receive your help. And you need to be able to make money because if you make money, you can actually help more people. I mean, it's just the truth of it, right? Your engine will be bigger to help more people.
Yeah, I love that. So talking about, asking, how can we find you, Howie? What are you working on? I think I put your howiechan.com. You have also other sites and your podcast. Tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about how
Yeah.
people can follow you, how we can help you.
Yes, I'm doing a lot of things. I actually just launched my YouTube channel today. So, yeah, thank you, thank you. It's been a long time. I've been dabbling in and out. Finally committing to being on YouTube. So, find me on YouTube. It's Howie Chan. You can find me. The podcast is Influence Anyone. So the podcast is so fun. I mean, I get to interview like experts from around the world. I interviewed Lan on how to influence yourself, but
Yeah.
others as well. Folks like Dr. Robert Cialdini, who wrote the book on influence, right? 40 years anniversary this year. So just a fantastic way for me to learn and then to package it in a way that other people can learn from that. So please follow. Please go
So,
there.
one last thing. What's the one thing, the one takeaway? What's the one thing you want people to get off this phone, this call and do? Like that will kind of help them be more influential, I guess.
So I think the one thing you can do is, whether it's in your professional or personal life, think of a person that you want to help. Okay, think of a person you want to help. And through what I talked about, from understanding the person that side of the triangle to the context to you, How do you help that person by influencing them to do something? Do that. And again, start with who? Start with the person. Start with what they're trying to achieve and how you can help them get there. Right. So do that. Help somebody.
I love that. I love that. So put this on gallery mode. This is the one time for the folks in the live Zoom audience. I ask you to turn on your videos, unmute, turn on your videos and unmute, and give Howie a big round of applause. Woo, Howie. Thank you so much. That was so powerful. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Turn on your videos. Come on, we can still do it. I know if you have a bad hair day, but round of applause to Howie. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube, his podcast. He has a great newsletter as well. And thank you once again, Howie, for coming. Thank you, everyone else, for joining. And I'm going to be on vacation for the next, for March. But in April, we will resume our micro learnings. If you have any topics or ideas you guys are interested in, let me know. Just find me on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.